Today we're going to be talking about how to figure out if points lie on a graph of a specific equation. Of course, you could always do this graphically by graphing out the equation that you're dealing with, graphing the points and seeing if they lie on each other. But I'm going to be showing you how to do this algebraically, because that can come in handy more often if you're dealing with a function that is kind of difficult to graph or that maybe you don't know how to graph. Knowing how to do these problems algebraically is going to be very important because it's a more universally applicable method that we're going to go through. So by the end of this video, you should be able to easily determine whether specific points are on the graph of a function that you're given. And so if that sounds good to you, be sure to stick around to the end of the video. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive right into it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Determine whether each point lies on the graph of the equation. So really, when it comes to these kinds of problems, you're given some sort of equation. In this case, we have y equals x squared minus 3x plus 2. And then we have these 2 points that we need to figure out if they actually lie on the graph of this equation, which are 2, 0 and negative 2, 8. So really, when it comes to these kinds of problems, you want to think about pretty much one thing. What is a point? A point is just an xy pair. That's another way to think of it, right? It's an x and a y pair. So this x and this y are paired together. If we were to think about what this actually looks like on a graph, basically 2 would correspond with where this point sits above the x-axis, and 0 would correspond with where this point sits in either to the left or to the right of the y-axis. So the 2 has to do with x, the 0 has to do with y. But when it comes to an equation, it's the same kind of idea. We don't have axes that we're looking at graphically, but the idea is the same, which is we have some xy pair. We know x is 2 in this case and y is 0 in this case. So if this point were to lie on the graph of this equation, that would mean that putting x equals 2 and y equals 0 into this equation for x and y, the equation would have to be true, right? Basically, the left side of our equation would need to equal the right side of our equation. If that is true, then this point lies on the graph of this function. If it's not, it doesn't. So to figure this out, all we have to do is replace all of our x's in our equation with the number 2, replace all of our y's in the equation with the number 0, and see if it's equal. So if you put 0 in for y, we're going to get 0 on the left side equals x, which is now 2 squared, minus 3 times 2, because x is 2, plus 2. And that one's not an x, we just had a 2 in our equation right there. And then basically we need to figure out, are these two things equal? If they are, then the point lies on the graph. If they're not, it doesn't. So we really just want to kind of simplify from here. There's really no simplifying to do on the left side. We just have 0 equals something. On the right side, we want to keep in mind our order of operations. So order of operations says that we're going to deal with the power first. So 2 squared is 4. The next thing we would deal with is multiplication. So 3 times 2 would have to happen. And then the final thing would be addition and subtraction. So we'll kind of keep those 3 terms like that. And then we have 0 maybe equals 4 minus 6 plus 2. 4 minus 6 is negative 2, plus 2 is 0. So yes, those two things are equal. So we can get rid of our question mark. We know that 0 does equal 0, which means the point 2, 0 is on the graph of this equation. Okay, so we know that for that first one, the answer is yes. So let's go ahead and do this second point here now. Again, we basically just want to go to our equation, y equals x squared minus 3x plus 2. And we're just going to say, in this case, we have, again, you're always just going to think of this as an xy pair. So xy. Negative 2 is x. So x equals negative 2. 8 is y. Y equals 8. And then we're just going to go to our equation and replace all of our x's with negative 2's, replace all of our y's with 8. So we have a y right here. That's 8 equals maybe with a question mark. The reason I put this question mark here is we don't know if the equation is equal until we actually simplify and make sure that both sides equal the same number. So until we actually kind of simplify it all the way down, we want to keep this question mark over the equal sign because we're not quite sure if those two things are going to be equal or not. Then we're going to have x equals -2. So it is important, make sure when you're plugging in numbers like a negative number like this, put it in parentheses, because the whole -2 needs to be squared, not just the 2, right? Writing -2 squared is not the same as writing -2 in parentheses all squared like that. The order of operations is going to give us something different there. So -2 all in parentheses squared minus 3 times -2. Again, make sure you're putting that -2 in parentheses. That's going to change things if you miss that. And then plus 2. So let's simplify the right side of our equation now. Again, the left side, there's no simplifying to do. We just have one number. -2 squared is the same as -2 times -2. Two negative numbers multiply to a positive, so the negative signs are going to cancel out. 2 times 2 is 4. So this term right here is +4. -3 times -2. Again, a negative times a negative cancels into a positive. 3 times 2 is 6. So we're going to get 4 plus 6 and then plus 2. So 4 plus 6 is 10 plus 2 is 12. So we have 12 on the right side of our equation, 8 on the left side. So these two things are not equal. So that tells us that at this point, -2, 8 is not on the graph of this equation. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I'm going to be coming out with a lot more videos that you're going to find helpful as well. So if you're one of the 98% of people who's watching this video who's not subscribed to my channel, just go click right on that button right there. Let's get you subscribed so you can keep coming back for more helpful content. That way we can keep crushing it together all term long in your math class.